Why, hello out there, and welcome to the, dare I say, dark and sneaky side of Uncensored Radio. We have a brand new little show that we are putting forth to you. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everywhere around the world, welcome to Uncensored Confessions, where you tell us your problems, your secrets, your stories. We share them and offer you some suggestions, a little bit of help, and, maybe some personal advice. But I've got to introduce our beautiful panel to start with. Of course, we have the king of Uncensored Radio, Mr. Jeffrey Emmett, with us today. Hello, Jeffrey. Look at him. Hi, I'm here. Christina is here with us and ready to go. And of course, the one and only Miss Katrina A. Johnson is ready to dish the Now, the panelists do not know these stories. I am the only one that knows these stories. So any reactions that you see from my three lovely angels is an honest and true reaction. So what do you think, team? Are we ready to dive into our first ever Uncensored?
Start reading already, shit.
I can't wait. Let's go.
Okay. Here we go. I am having an affair with a black man, and I'm pretty sure I'm pregnant. Being that I can't have another child, because obviously I can't pass this one off as my husband's, I'm going to have an abortion. Something that the baby daddy is totally okay with. However, I am not sure I am, even though this will ruin my life. I'm about a week late on my period. I've taken a test and they are all negative. However, something is telling me that the tests are giving me false negatives. I've had 2 abortions when I was 17 and 23. I'm not proud of it, but had I not done that, my life would be a whole other place right now. I'm lucky enough to live where it's legal. I can get one when I need to. However, the emotional distress I will go through yet again is what's really bothering me. The baby daddy is really just a fuck buddy. Yes, there are feelings, but only from my end, I'm afraid. He hasn't told me otherwise, so that's my answer. Oh, that's a bit dumb. I am worried I'll be going through this all alone. I almost want to tell my husband that I'm pregnant and tell him that I miscarried. Ooh. As awful as it sounds, I just feel like it might be able to give my husband the push he needs to actually start caring for me the way he should, and also break things off completely with the other guy. Because clearly this was not something I wanted to happen. We made a bad judgment call, and now I'm with child and up a creek without a paddle. I'm looking for guidance. Do I tell my husband, or do I just keep it from him and explain I was a heavy period? Do I even tell the baby daddy that I'm pregnant, or keep it from him and do this completely alone? I'm nervous about all this, and maybe this is why I haven't got my period yet, because I have the nerves. I'm not sure what I needed to do, but I had to get this off my chest. There is a lot to unpack there.
Wow.
That's a lot of information. So let's say, first of all, this is just my initial reaction. There is no shame, no anything in getting an abortion. Whether you have to, whether you choose to, that is totally up to you, boo. Obviously, she knows what the process is and has been through it before, and it takes a toll on her. But that's a lot. That's a lot to process and to break down. There's so many things happening.
Okay.
I want to address
where do we? Like I say, first and foremost, do not tell the boyfriend.
Yeah, no.
He's just a side piece. He doesn't get to know, because all he's gonna do is upset you, and you're not gonna leave your husband. You don't want to leave. You never said you want to leave. You said you just want him to treat you better. So I would say, stop with the boyfriend. Get rid of him. He's just complicating things. It's making your life more difficult. And you said he doesn't even seem to have feelings that match yours. I would say, first, step 1, get rid of the boyfriend. And do not tell him, because anything he says is just going to complicate your life further and upset you.
Right. Exactly.
There's nothing you can really say other than, I love you, run away with me. That's not even going to make your life better, because you still got your other life. So there's nothing he could say to make this better. So I say, don't tell him. That's just one fine. What do you guys think?
it's tricky, isn't it? Like you just go, oh, I think the most important. Well, the first thing you've got to sort out is, I think, the marriage problem, right? It's the thing that's the crux of everything going on.
Mm-hmm.
Is the fact that there's not happiness in the marriage to start with, and is it really worth holding on to that?
Hold on. There could be other kids in the fold that you're
right. Yeah, we don't know that information.
So what?
Well,
Jeffrey, you're having a reaction. Jeffrey, have a reaction.
Jeffrey, what's up?
You don't stay for children. Get rid of the motherfucker. I'm sorry. Motherfucker gotta go. If you feel like you gotta do some of this shit to have him treat you better, like he's got to go. I say have the baby and let him be surprised. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what the motherfucker deserves. He deserves to have that surprise. Fuck him. Fuck the boyfriend. Fuck them both. Go get another one.
I think she is fucking them both. I think that's
Well,
I mean, like, get your own, but
fucking the husband. She never said that she
Yeah.
would be the husband's baby.
Yeah.
that's true.
There's just multiple things here that you've got to, like, it's like, this is a problem.
It
This is a
sounds
problem.
like
This
she
is a
needs
problem.
to
this is a
really
problem.
maybe spend some time in therapy because she's picking shitty men, right? Like,
Yeah.
usually there's it's a thing about like you don't have a good self-image if you got to pick these asshole men. You know what I mean? Like, why don't you feel you deserve more?
Yeah, and like you're in a situationship right now. Like it's not a relationship. It's not a boyfriend. It's not anything serious. Like that's a situationship. You're getting yourself into a bad situation, girl. Like, oh my god. I don't know what I would do. Again, as a married woman, like again, I just you don't know. I mean,
well, you never know what goes on in people's lives. You never know what's going on in people's backyards. You know what I mean? That's the point of these little houses that we live in, is that things are secret and things are private, and you can keep it that way and all that kind of stuff. But obviously, there's a lot of I think the problem is that she obviously seems stuck and distressed about it. Like, and you don't want to. No matter if you are, in love with your partner or you're on the verge of breaking up with your partner, etc., you don't ever want someone to feel less than about it. Like, stuff like that happens. Things break down. Life is not perfect. You're not meant to stay with the one person your entire life, no matter what the narrative says, unless that's a mutual thing. I think we've got to shake off that idea of, I am married, I have had a child, this is going to be my life for the rest of my life.
Oh,
I'm going to cling on to it.
No
matter what, I will not let go of this idea, because what will people say? Because that's the problem. It's not a problem with yourself. It's the problem with what other people are going to say about your situation.
Well,
But they don't walk in your shoes.
I mean, people get afraid, right? When you're in a relationship and you build a life with somebody else, you have a house, you have a mortgage, you know what I mean? It's hard to detain, and there's kids involved. You're like, how am I going to afford this on my own? How do you then separate? And it feels impossible. And then you're like, how am I going to be a single parent? And you don't, if that's the case, you don't, all of those things when you're in a marriage, it's the scariest thing ever until you get through it on the other side. And then you're like, what the fuck was I waiting for? Like,
yeah. And I feel Katrina too. Like, you don't want to tell the baby guy. Like, I wouldn't tell him either. Like, don't get him involved and just end it. Like, again, like you're setting yourself up for failure.
You don't know him
way.
anything.
Like,
you don't know. You don't.
especially because he's just like, oh, get rid of it. Like, that's it. Like he's just not. He's not even giving you an option. Like, he's not saying anything. He's not giving you anything. Like, again, you're putting yourself out there for nothing.
No, like that's like, what are you gonna do? Go chase a one night stand down and be like, oh, by the way.
Yeah,
it's your. I'm going to jump onto you next. Like this, you're the next one. It's like it's like Alien. I'm going to. You're the next one.
You guys say we do with the husband? Do we tell him? Do we play it off as something else? Do we go through this alone?
Get rid of him.
I think it depends. Look, And this is, well, you can speak with a little bit of authority on it, Jeff, because you had this situation, or not, you didn't get pregnant.
Yes, I did.
Yes, I did.
I'm still pregnant.
But
Triplet.
I think it really it depends on your marriage, doesn't like I see from the outside, you see some marriages that are good and that are based on, mutual respect and people being able to have difficult conversations, and people struggle. It's not meant to be perfect. That's why marriage counselors exist, That's why it works.
Married for the wrong reasons, and
Money.
they get into relationships where you don't know how to communicate. And I think there's people that not only do they not know how to communicate, they're not you people that are at different places in their life and they can't communicate together. And when you're in that situation, unless both people are willing to do the work, it's not going to work. And that's the problem, right? So if you have one party's not willing to step up and say, okay, I want this to work, I want to change things, I'm willing to change and admit my faults and move forward, there's nothing you can do, because the only thing you can control is yourself. So again, I think any point when you feel you have to manipulate somebody to make them treat you better, it's time to go. It's time to go. If you feel that you have to do that to somebody, you're not in the right place. You deserve more. And so do they. You know what I mean? And it doesn't mean that the dude's a bad guy, right? Like maybe he's just a good guy for somebody else, and maybe you're a good chick for somebody else. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean that you guys are bad people. It just means like maybe you're in the wrong relationship, and that's okay. Like people need
for this time in your life, you might not be the right fit for. Might not be the right fit for, and that's okay. Like, I wish people would understand that it's not a failure. Divorce is not a failure. Breaking up with someone is not a failure. Ending a long-term relationship is not a failure. It just means there's been growth in different directions.
Yeah, growing apart.
If you stick, like you look at these couples from a couple of decades ago that are like, oh, this is my 95th wedding anniversary. You're like, all right, you stuck with it because you had, like, back in the day, you don't throw things away, you fix things. And so they either they're either happily married or they put up with each other just because. You know what I mean? But there is options now. You don't have to do that. You can, as I said, either grow together or grow apart, but it's not a failure. Growth is never a failure in my eyes.
If you can work together and figure out how to split up it amicably and deal with your children without being children, without it turning into a fucking soap opera, right? Like that's the part that it's not a failure, right? Like that's successful. Like that's the part where you can turn it into something beautiful. I mean, as fucked up as it sounds and as cliche or whatever you want to call it, that's really it's something to strive for. I think, it's to know when to say, okay, it's time to go, and to do it with grace.
Good enough. Yeah,
and to really realize, like, okay, I loved you enough to marry you. I don't want to destroy you in the process of leaving. I respect you enough that I want to end this in a way that we don't hate each other.
Yeah, right. So you don't have to burn down the village. Yeah. You don't have to
you're hurting him in the process too. Like, stop cheating.
Oh, well, fuck that. Let's fuck that. Fuck that. Keep getting.
I know, right? Get your own, girl. Like, especially if shit ain't working out. Like, I'm totally for this.
He don't ever need to know, Christina. Like, this dude doesn't ever need to know this bitch is getting a little side dick. Because you know why? He's probably fucking her sister. You know what I mean? Like,
if this is happening to someone that this random person who has, for the grace of whatever, thrown themselves on the mercy of our court, then you don't know who this is happening with. It could be the most perfect couple in the world, and you will have no idea because this is happening behind closed doors. But as Christina says, it goes back, and Jeff was talking about, it goes back to communicating with your partner. And I fully believe that I think you should, like, when you sign that marriage license, you should be like a car. You're like, all right, I'm due for a service at like 1,800 miles. I go see the marriage counselor. How's everything going?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this wheel's a bit shaky. Cool. Let's go back in and talk about that. Can we fix that? Do we need to replace that part? All right, cool. And then you renegotiate your contract.
Great.
You know,
Yeah,
you
it's like,
renegotiate
You
your
know
contract.
what? I thought
Again,
his dick
like-
was big enough, and it's really not.
Yeah. No.
But how often do customers? Wow, whoops, customers. That was a bit of a slip. Do couples get together and like they've dated and everything, or the ones that like date really quickly and they get married, but they find that they're not compatible sexually. Like they're like, oh, okay, this one's really like wow. This is like, don't look at me, don't touch me. It's like
Yeah.
at that point, I think two mature adults should be able to have a negotiation and go, hey, I love you. I'm just not like a sexy person.
Yeah.
So if I'm not going to give that to you, I can let you go. And you should be mature enough to let someone go and get what's theirs if they're coming back to you.
I'm not that.
I
mature.
think-
No. Mm-mm.
Katrina,
This bitch would pull a blade out her titties and cut a
Yeah,
motherfucker.
yeah.
Like,
she's like,
New York
my
City.
toys are my toys. No one touches my
That's
toys.
I do not share.
No share. No.
No,
But
no
do you
share.
think that's the way of the future, Katrina A. Johnson? Do you think that conversation should be had, or is it too much?
No, well, I mean, I don't know. Sex is important to me. I want it in my relationship, but I want it with my partner. I don't want it with, a bunch of other people. So, I mean, for
Right.
me, that wouldn't even need to be a conversation. It would just be relationship over. Like, I don't want to stay with you if we're not doing that. So, I would be the
Right,
one.
but do you reckon? Do you think that people even broach that? They go, "Oh, well, that's part of being a couple that you deal with the consequences of sex drive, of financial like situations, and all that kind of stuff."
I think a lot of people are afraid to broach that, and they don't, and they should. And
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of people who are just unsatisfied because they don't have the conversation. And I think
So
there
can
are
I-
wives who know they're being cheated on because they never had that talk.
Can I
Yeah.
ask you, like, if you were married
Mhm.
and, like, the sex life totally diminished, what would you do, like, in that situation? Like,
Well,
it's not there anymore.
I don't
like-
have kids, so I wouldn't feel the need to stay for somebody else.
Yeah.
I would probably leave
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah.
important to me.
Yeah.
That's
Really important. Yeah.
I think I have a very high drive, so I'm usually more like
Girl, same.
relationship. I've into this problem before, a lot of men,
Yeah.
once they hit a certain age, they need testosterone, and they're not the same, and they don't have that same drive. Well, I do. I'm an animal, a big drive. Okay, so
Yeah.
this has been a problem for me before, and
Yeah.
it's not something like I don't want to keep my partner and then have to go sleep with a bunch of other people. I want to find an equal or almost equal, like, reasonable amount of drive in a partner that works for me. So
Agreed. Yeah.
that's not
important.
for me. I don't want to go find it elsewhere. I don't want to make my perfect combination with some over here and some over there. I want the majority in one.
And you know what? Sometimes it's not about sex; it's about intimacy, and that is two different things. If all you're doing is coming home, look at Jeffrey. Ew, don't touch me. But some people want that, cuddle on the couch, like
Ugh.
I get the
you're
cuddle on the
beautiful,
couch. It doesn't do
all that
anything for
kind
me.
of thing. But some people, what I'm saying is, some people don't get that. Some people don't get that. They get yeah, cool. I think when you get to the point of we don't touch each other, we sleep in separate beds. How often do you hear that? Like, I've heard that a lot more recently.
Is there
Like,
some
people
place
like,
to sign up?
we don't
for
even
that?
sleep in the same. Yeah, Jeffrey's like,
Steve,
can you just pay my bills?
It'd be one thing if I was getting, like, fucked like crazy every night and then he wasn't cuddling with me on the couch. But, like,
Yeah.
if he's just cuddling me on the couch and not fucking me like
Yeah,
crazy, then it's
Exactly.
like, I don't want
Well,
you.
who's
Like,
he fucking?
I don't need that. Like,
I don't care
right.
if
Like,
he cuddles.
he's fucking-
If he's cuddling you
Exactly.
and he's not fucking you, he's fucking somebody else. Sorry.
Maybe he's just old. Maybe
No,
he's
not
tired.
old.
Yeah.
No.
clapped out.
He doesn't
Got
have that drive anymore. Maybe
No, that or he's a fag. I don't know which.
that little blue pill.
One of them.
Just start mashing it up and putting it in the food and be like,
Listen,
oh, all of a
I'll tell
sudden.
you, you said, what would you do? What would you do? I'll tell you what you do. You fuck his best friend.
Oh.
I'm
Jeffrey,
not, it's not
Maybe
like
the best friend is black. Maybe that's what she's
Maybe that's the problem, Jeff.
You don't fucking know.
I'm not speaking from personal experience or anything. I would never touch a thing twice.
Look, anyone that has watched this show or listened to this show can go back and find evidence possibly suggesting otherwise. But that's okay. So let's take the conversation away from sex. Obviously, kids are a big thing for this person, and the one thing I do applaud this person for is not just having a baby because they're pregnant and bringing a life that they can't necessarily care for into the world just because a lot of people do that. Like, oh my god, I've got to have this baby. I'm like, you don't have to, and if you can't look after that kid and provide that kid a stable home financially, emotionally, and for their well-being, then that kid's that's not going to work out. And speaking from someone whose parents did break up, but my parents waited until I was 18. They stuck in there, you know what I mean? And then I was like, oh, woo, we're done. But you would rather, in the long run, have two happy parents apart than two miserable parents together.
Yeah.
It's not the vibe. So everyone that thinks that they should stay together for children,
right,
don't do it. My friends put it beautifully the other night. We were talking about stuff, and they're two females that have two sons. So they're like, they get all the questions and all the drama, but they're like, we choose who we invest our time in because we want to create a village for our kids, so that if we can't solve their problems, they can go to someone else and know that they are loved, they are respected, and that they will be cared for if something happens to either of them, or they can't help them, or they don't want to go to their mums. They invest their energy in their village because that's who's going to raise those kids. It's not just down to the parents. And I think when it comes to splitting up for the sake of children, you have to rely on the relationships around you and know that the people that care about your kids and care about their well-being. So you're not going to be alone. I think that's the biggest thing, is that people go, I'm going to be alone. I'm going to be alone. Financially, yes. I know that Jeffrey's like, who's going to pay these bills?
I'm just like, which one of the three of you is taking these motherfucking kids next weekend?
Right. I don't know if your kids would like I don't know if your kids would really jive if I took them again, Jeffrey. They were like, they got the Australian whacked out on them. They're like, what? What?
Oh my god.
But I think you need to realize that there are other relationships around, other than your marriage, that will support and nurture your children.
Yeah.
It's not, don't stay because of the kids. Don't be like, my kids, what will happen to them? Ask every other kid in their class, probably.
Yeah,
like, whose parents are together these days? Ew.
Yeah.
Like, ew, you have a happy heterosexual parenting couple? Ew, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
It's like, you're not interesting. So I think we've covered it all, but I think, if you don't want the baby, don't have the baby. All right?
Right.
We can all agree on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless look, it's okay to change your mind as well.
And there's got to be somebody besides us that you can talk to. Somebody that you could reach out to that could give you some other sort of outside opinion. But do what you have to do.
And just a little tip: it's 2023. You don't have to point out the skin color of your boyfriend. Just saying.
Yeah. But
but I think
if the baby were born, it wouldn't be.
Yeah. If you have
you could have just pointed that part out.
If you have a Caucasian husband and all of a sudden you're like, whoop, It's not like back in like the 1920s, the baby's been under a heat lamp. It's like it's not one of those moments. It's a real life.
It's a joke, reverse joke.
There's a line from Modern Family when whatchamacallit, somebody says, she goes, oh, by the way, she goes, sometimes when the babies are early, they're black.
I joke. But yeah, if you get to even the appointment and go, oh my god, I can't do this, then there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
If you want to keep that baby, you want to put that baby up for adoption, whatever you want to do what's going to be okay with you and your soul, whatever. But I think the biggest thing you got to tackle is your husband, literally.
Yeah,
go,
and then you got to hit us back and tell us what you decide.
Yeah,
please do.
We need the
follow-up. And please know that all of our advice / jokes are in your best interests. We want to see
jokes.
I know. Jeffrey's like, fuck anyone. But yeah, I think it's important. You got, even in the worst situations, you got to find something funny about it. So that's what Uncensored Radio is here for. We live for that. But find happiness for you, I think, is the ultimate end of day sentence for us on this one. Is make sure that you can find a way that you can go to bed at night and go, you know what? I've done what's right for me. I've done what's right for my kids if I have them. I've done what's right essentially for my relationship by either ending it or working on it. And then
how you gonna send this story into this show and not send us dick pictures? I feel like that's real rude.
that's real rude. Next time,
come on, Katrina, would you on the show too? Like, we didn't even get how many quarters? Nothing. Like, don't you?
Really. I need details.
From now on, next time you're having an affair, can you please present comparative photos so we can make the sound and rational choice for you?
What if the husband's like 9.5, and the boyfriend's like,
would she even be doing that? Then if that was the case?
Yes.
You think?
But the problem is, Jeffrey, the husband's not using that 9.5. It's just a kickstand.
Yeah.
See, there are bigger problems than 9.5 inches sometimes.
A useless piece of wood.
Useless, yeah. It's like driftwood. Remember back in the early 90s where everyone was doing shabby chic driftwood tables? Like, this is my driftwood table with a bit of sea glass chucked on top of it. It's purely decorational. We don't use it. It's in the room that we don't go in.
I'm married to it for 5 years.
oh, damn. Well, we have made it to the end of our first confession, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you for joining us. We hope that we've been of some kind of help. But look, thank you for sharing. If you want to share your dirty laundry and help, a little bit of help, you can always put your confessions into Uncensored Radio. Look at our Facebook page. There's something on our Instagram. There's a link on our TikTok. It is all completely anonymous, so we can hold your secrets close to our heart while we tell them to the world.
Confession.
Oh, it sounds very Madonna, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I love it. All right. Thanks for joining us, folks. We'll see you soon on Uncensored Confessions. Bye.